This is Leaders of B2B Alternative Financing, powered by Capital Express. Today's guest is Scott Coffey, President and CEO at Exchange Capital. Now here's Scott with your host, Marka Knudsen.
Welcome to Leaders of B2B Alternative Financing. This is a podcast, and we love podcasts because they're amazing. And we have amazing guests not week, because we don't do it every week. Whenever we can get an amazing guest, that's when we do a podcast. And today we have Scott Coffey from Exchange Capital on the podcast. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you, Mark. Glad to be here.
We're glad to have you, and I've known you for a number of years, and I know what you do, but we want to get that out to the world. Can you just give us a little bit about what you do at Exchange Capital, what Exchange Capital does, actually?
Absolutely. We are a accounts receivable factoring company. So I get it kind of dumbed down to the level of we help businesses get paid faster for their invoices. So we do that by advancing funds on their accounts receivable, and it provides a great cash flow bridge for those guys as they're growing and need those extra funds faster.
How did you get into this business? Because I know a little bit about your background. Tell me how, if you're comfortable telling us how long you've been in there. You may not want to do that. May reveal some details about you.
Totally comfortable with that. I've been in it since 92, and I got in it because my father called me in 92 spring or so when I was finishing up grad school in Nashville. And he said, "Hey, I've started a factoring company. Would you like to come join me?" And I said, "Sure, Dad. What is that?" And so he explained a little bit and said, "Hey, I need some help. I've just started this. And, if you like it, you can stay. If you don't, you can go do whatever you were going to do after grad school." I joined him and honestly never thought about anything else. Never looked, never considered leaving. So it's been a great run and a blessing to get to work with him since 92. That's for sure.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's a great story. So you've been in it for a while. What are some of the biggest changes you've seen since the 90s to today?
There have been some changes, certainly. From the admin side of things, as you can imagine, we barely had computers there in 92. And we had a lot of ring binders and lots of paper schedules and looking those up and stamping them paid when we went through all the paper checks, and just a very archaic way of doing things, obviously. So that naturally has changed with digitization and all the computer tools at our disposal. It's come a long ways with software and just new ways of doing things, certainly. So that technology-wise has changed things. But at the same time, the business, it is what it is. It really, in some ways, hasn't changed. We're still helping those clients get paid faster and be able to use that cash flow for their business, whether it be trying to make payroll or pay other expenses or take advantage of some business opportunity that they have. That really hasn't changed since day one, and that's really what I talk about 95% of our conversations with people. It's really educating and informing on what we do.
Yeah, that kind of leads me to what I was thinking about. Talking to a lot of different factors and banks who do alternative financing, what is your core group of customers? What are they primarily using the funds for these days?
To some degree, I don't know, because they don't have to report back to me on what they use those funds for. But we hear the big thing is trying to make payroll. We need a safety net. Thursday, we need to make sure we're good in case that other check didn't come in. There's that obvious need, certainly for regular other expenses for the business. Some of them use it for, I'll call it mobilization expenses when they're starting a new job of whatever that may be. It may be hiring someone or getting a crew to a different location or whatever. They need those funds to do that. And the new job hasn't paid anything yet, so they need some cash flow to take on that new opportunities. We hear that story quite a bit as well. Trying to grow and trying to take advantage of those opportunities and trying to make them cash flow at the same time to get them off the ground.
Yeah. What type of businesses do you specialize in? Is there any industry specific?
Not really. We're a generalist, as we say, and we've got a whole cross section of industries that we work with. Transportation is one, and that's certainly very prevalent in factoring, but we're not a transportation specialist. We love the referrals and love to work with transportation companies, but we treat them like other industries more, rather than that whole new dynamic of super high advances and really low fees that some of the transportation factors have focused on. But staffing, industrial maintenance, manufacturing, other services, we've kind of got a cross section of all the routine companies that you would expect to find. And at the same time, we've got, we always listen to the stories. When someone gets referred to us, I always like to hear what they're doing and and see if it's a good fit, because there's some that on the surface, when we first hear what they're doing, it may not sound like a great fit, but they end up being a fit. So as one example was, we had a caterer call one time, and I thought, no, we can't do catering. We're not doing anniversary parties and all those kind of things. But he said, I've got those things, but his real core business was servicing the natural gas industry and the drilling play that was here in Arkansas at that time. And he had several of his catering trucks that he parked out there, and he was getting paid by those big oil and gas drilling companies. Totally changed the dynamic of what I originally thought of when he called and said he had a catering company. So, but again, we've got some other things that you don't necessarily go target. We've got a great client that cleans ice machines for a couple of restaurant chains. And again, we never thought about who did that, but he does, and does a great job. And it's an industry that we wouldn't have thought of, but it's a good fit.
Yeah, that falls out of the SIC codes that we're usually out there searching for. That's not one that pops up. So that's the beauty of this business. If you have AR and you need working capital, this is what we do here. I know you're based in Arkansas, but where do you typically find your deals? You can fund anywhere, I assume?
We can fund anywhere. We're continental U.S., so all of our clients would be U.S. based. And we're in Arkansas. Most of my efforts, and our business development efforts are Arkansas related, but we've got quite a bit of business outside the state, and it's all referral business. We certainly try to have great people that we work with outside the state as well, and have met throughout the years, and between former clients, current clients, and just other industry people that we may know and contacts that could refer business to us. So it's a cross section of Arkansas and outside the state. Arkansas obviously is a natural for us because we're based here between Arkansas and contiguous states. That's a big chunk of our business, I'd say, but certainly outside the state works as well if they come referred and we get a good connection to them.
Right. You mentioned referrals. How do businesses get referred to you?
It could be from anyone. A natural fit in the top 2 or 3, I would say, would be commercial lenders, because they're going to see businesses. That's obviously where companies go if they need some cash flow, and we want to be that answer. If the bank can't quite make that loan yet, we want to be their source for that temporarily till they can call them back. So commercial lenders are a great source. Again, existing clients are fantastic. We try to do a great job, and if we do, hopefully they'll think of us when they run across someone else that may need us. And then also former clients are good as well. We get calls and connections from those people that sometimes it's a surprise. Sometimes it's a long-term client from way back that maybe we hadn't thought of in a while, but appreciate them calling. And then other just business connectors from the community and surrounding areas that we try to stay involved with, accelerator programs and those types of things that where we can really get connected to other people too.
Nice. What's one thing that you wish businesses did before they picked up the phone and said, hey, Scott, I need a factoring line?
I think I would have to say one of the tops would be call us before you go get one of those MCA loans that we see that we'll have a client and we'll work through it. It sounds like a great fit. And then we'll do our UCC search, and there's one or more of those UCC filings on their receivables already by one of those merchant cash advance companies. They are not our industry. They do not do what we do. And those are tough to work through. They're tough to get paid off, tough to communicate with. If we can, we will, but it's very difficult. And so we really want those guys to find us and get connected to us before they get involved in a situation like that. It's hard to untangle because of the cash flow and because of the communication or lack thereof with those MCA companies as well. So we'd love for them to call us before they do that.
Absolutely. That's something we need to go away. Those MCA, they're so predatory in their lending. It's a shame what some businesses end up in on these things.
Right.
You've been doing it a long time. I'm sure you have a lot of success stories here, but is there one that sticks out to you or two that say, hey, we helped this business?
We've got a lot. There's people that have used us, and some of those success stories that we really like are those that have used us for a long time, not because they had to, because they couldn't get away from factoring. We know factoring, and we go into it thinking this is temporary. This is here to bridge a gap until this company grows and either funds themselves or has a bank loan that takes care of them. And again, we love those relationships with lenders, but we've had some relationships where they really stayed with us for a long time. Again, not because they couldn't get away from factoring, but because they see what we do and how we focus on taking care of the clients. And that's just our niche. That's not better or worse. It's just our niche is to really provide a level of service that goes above and beyond. And our clients have our mobile numbers. They call or text anytime. It's not a 48-hour turnaround on communication with them. And, we're fairly high tech, but we don't have an AI chat where they can do things on the side. They're calling us personally when they need something. So we love taking care of clients. And we've had some that have stuck around for a long time and really used us as part of their back office. And yes, they're paying us fees, but it's not because they couldn't undo from factoring or move forward on something else. It's they like our service. They like the credit and the processing and the access to funds if they need it. And it's on a phone call, and they treat us as part of their admin team. And as opposed to hiring extra people, they pay us some fees that balance out their expenses. And so they don't really pay any more for the service. They just get an outside third party doing what we do for them. And they really like that. We've had some really key clients we've had for a long time that have enjoyed that. We've appreciated them sticking around for a while.
That's great. Yeah, that's awesome. Final question here. What do you think the future of factoring looks like?
I'd love to say that I don't think it's going away. I don't. It's kind of like transportation, that you still have to get things from point A to point B. So, I don't think it's going away. Obviously, technology changes things. Some of the larger factoring companies, I know it's super automated with a lot of AI and OCR of the invoices, and really where it's more hands-free probably on the processing. And we can be that, but really our focus is a little bit smaller niche client. So our goal is not to go hands-free, and touch-free on what we process for the clients and how we do that. So it may be, and I may be way off base on this, Mark, but it may be kind of like banking, where back when Dad called me and everybody in the school of thought was, there's going to be 10 banks in just a few years. All these banks are going to go away. Well, that didn't happen. I know the numbers have shrunk, but people still like community banks, right? They're still around. They're still starting and thriving, and people enjoy doing business with those guys. And maybe it's kind of like that, at least for a while. There will be some, the big side of the market for factoring is going to change. It's becoming more automated and scaling up in that direction. But on the smaller side of things, we're more like a community bank. We like to know our clients really well. And again, talk to them actually in person, see them and get on phone calls with them and treat them like that. And so I'm thinking there will be a niche of our industry that sticks around in that area and doesn't change dynamically, if you want to call it that. That's our hope anyway. That's what we're planning on. So it'll be interesting to see how this all unfolds and how technology changes things, and yet how we continue to take care of clients, because this is about their money. This is not selling a widget that you can get from Amazon, right? Or somewhere else. That's all great, but this is personal. This is about funding their business. And I don't think technology changes the care and concern for people and them trying to manage their business and take care of their people and cover their expenses and make payroll and do it comfortably and really be able to grow their business. And sometimes you want to be able to talk to a person about that rather than it being totally automated.
Excellent. Scott, we thank you for your time this morning on Leaders of B2B Alternative Financing, and we hope to talk to you again real soon.
Absolutely. Thanks again for having me, Mark. I appreciate it.
This is Leaders of B2B Alternative Financing, powered by Capital Express.